Season 4, Episode 39 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bit Stealers. I am Sam Fetterman. That is Jonathan Litzkin. And with us, joining us for the first part of the show today, Davis Wilson. How are you doing, Davis?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited to be on. Thanks for having me.
Actually, forgot to ask Jonathan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Sam. We had a fun Super Tuesday, great night of basketball. Let's get into it.
We finally have a day of the week, by the way, that lives up to the name. After Little Monday, we get Super Tuesday.
That one I think is appropriately named.
And I know that we're going to get Sonic blockbusters all weekend, all of that. So finally, we've got good good slates in basketball after a pretty brutal three out of the last 4 days before today. I had some pretty brutal slates. But all right, Davis, you're here to talk about one of the fun games in the Big 12. I mean, the Big 12 is an absolute buzzsaw. TCU and Texas Tech tonight. Texas Tech went up in this game by 11 in the first half. How did TCU claw their way back?
Well, I think it's part of the reason is because they've gotten used to it. I saw a stat that they're now 5-2 in games that they are trailing by double digits. So they're kind of, I talk about it on my podcast with my co-hosts a lot about how they get off to these slow starts, and really it hasn't seemed to hurt them yet. But I expect it to probably hurt them at some point. But they shot the ball as well as I've seen them shoot it all year. Obviously, guys like Trey Tennyson and Micah Peavy shooting the ball that well is a huge help. And then, the switch, one thing I thought was huge was Jamie Dixon switched Micah Peavy on to Pop Isaac, and that helped a lot. So, yeah, a little nerve-wracking that we keep having to deal with this kind of TCU getting in a hole and digging their way out, but it's a fun game.
Yeah, I didn't really have eyes on it for that long, but the fact of the matter was that I started out and I looked up and I'm like, whoa, Texas Tech's up by 10. They're doing this thing again. I was just talking last 2 nights ago about how impressed I've been with their offense this year. And then TCU just kind of slowed that game down to a grind towards the end of that first half. And I did have eyes on that part. And then Trey Tennyson, who's just been so important, hit some big shots in the second half, and Micah Peavy hit some big shots, and TCU just has some really good big shot makers this year, which they didn't have past few years, aside from Mike Miles, really.
Yeah, I think one thing I was thinking about earlier when I was watching this game was I think Trey Tennyson may be the most important piece on this TCU team. Obviously, you look at Emmanuel Miller as being the guy for them, but I think this team goes as far as Trey Tennyson's shooting can kind of get them. And obviously in Big 12 play, he's shot the ball extremely well. And that's kind of opened something up on the offense that TCU really hasn't had since Desmond Bain a couple years ago. So it's cool to see him, play so well.
Jonathan, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was particularly impressed with Micah Peavy tonight because he came to TCU as a guy that we knew could be physical, could guard multiple positions. But if you're going to get this kind of offensive performance from him, TCU can pretty much beat anybody. I mean, he had 18 points. He didn't shoot the ball particularly well from 2, but he hit four threes, had 4 assists. It's just something we're not used to seeing on the offensive end. And I think it speaks to not just Jamie Dixon's ability to recognize talent when he sees it, but this TCU's team's ability to just have different guys step up. Like you mentioned, Davis Tennyson's been fantastic in conference play. Emmanuel Miller, we knew coming into this year was going to be a very good player. And then, of course, Jameer Nelson has his games. It's just a very balanced and deep team.
Mm-hmm. Everybody in the Big 12 has at least 2 losses, and I think everybody in the Big 12 is going to have at least 2 more losses. I don't think anyone is going to come out of this league with less than 4 losses. Honestly, maybe not less than 5 or 6 losses because of how deep this. I mean, last year Kansas was 13-5. 2 years ago, 14-4. This is a grind. it's a legit grind every year, and this year is even crazier because you have Houston in there, and Cincinnati's pesky, and BYU is top 10 in Ken Pom, and even UCF's won 3 games, which stinks for me. But like the fact of the matter is that outside of really West Virginia and Oklahoma State, everybody is going to give everybody else a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. Like you don't really look at the schedule and you say like, oh, this is a freebie. Even like you mentioned, West Virginia, Oklahoma State are not good, but they like West Virginia. We've seen West Virginia. They beat Kansas, or they beat Texas. Like
Kansas and Texas,
yeah, they're like a frisky team. Oklahoma State, I don't know really what to say about them, but I don't know.
I make a vow right now. I will not watch another second of Oklahoma State basketball until Mike Boynton is fired. If they make if they win the Big 12 tournament and make the Final Four, I will not watch their Final Four game.
Some of their fans were in your comment section tonight, and like one of the guys said like something along the lines of like he hasn't watched in 5 years, and I'm like, you didn't watch. My first thought was like, you didn't watch when Cade Cunningham was on your team.
I think the thing about Mike Boynton is just that he's the most uninteresting guy in the country, coaching the most uninteresting team in the country.
Oh man,
it's some rough sledding in Stillwater right now.
Yeah, I mean, just as a whole, though, with this Texas Tech TCU game, does this game make you feel any worse about Texas Tech, or do we still like what we see?
I think I kind of still like what I see from them. They, I mean, what is that? Their second loss in the Big 12. They've beat, they went on the road and beat Oklahoma. They went on the road and beat Texas. It's kind of this collection of like, this was not something we expected, but I personally love Grant McCasland a lot. I think he's a great coach, and he's done a really good job with just making the most out of the pieces that they have. It's really interesting to see how they're working and how they kind of fit together. But I still like them a lot. I think they ran into a TCU team that's really, really hot right now. And I mean, I still like them. I think that was just 2 good teams and a fun game of runs we saw.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that both of these teams played a good basketball game, but at the end of the day, it came down to the fact that TCU was able to play it, was able to grind it out towards the end of the first half, and then was able to push it forward in the beginning of the second half. And that's what really got them through this game, because they kind of controlled most of that middle 20. TCU controlled the middle 20. Texas Tech couldn't really get all the way back into it at the end, and that's really what ended up doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. This is 2 really good basketball teams. I've been saying for the last couple weeks that there are like 5 teams in the Big 12 that I really trust, and these are 2 of them, to go with Houston, Kansas, and Iowa State.
And the other thing I've been saying, the other thing that Jonathan and I know you and I both agree, these are 2 of the best, most underrated coaches in the country. Grant McCasland has been this way for a few years now. I remember he turned down the SMU job when Rob Lanier got it. And I mean, that worked out for him. Now he's
that's correct.
In the Big 12. He's coaching at Texas Tech, and he's got the number 1 offense in the Big 12. Like, who expected that? Yeah. And then Jamie Dixon, just the success that he's had with TCU is unparalleled in that program's history. They're basically a lock for 20 wins every year now. Like, that just doesn't happen. He won 24, 21, and 23 in his first 3 years at TCU. That's just not something that program had been used to. And he had so much success at Pitt as well. The fact that Jamie Dixon is not as well regarded as maybe he should be is still bewildering to me. But I do sort of understand that he doesn't have the tournament success to back it up. But he's been winning at TCU. Nobody's really won at TCU.
No.
Yeah, no, that's one thing I was going to say. Like, the last 2 years he's had two what I would call good teams. Obviously, last year was I think a little better than the year before, even though they turned it on late. But like lost to 1 seed Arizona close, lost to 3 seed Gonzaga close. No one really expected them to be able to. No one expected them to like be a favorite in that game, those games. So like he's done what he's supposed to the last couple years. And on the Texas Tech side of this, like I've watched them a couple times this year, Sam. But what really impressed me is like for a team that's like coached by Grant McCaslin, they have so many like isolation scorers.
Yeah.
Like and guys that can create their own shot. Like Toussaint was awful tonight, but we know he can. Isaacs has taken a huge leap this year for them, and then Chance McMillan, who I believe was at Grand Canyon last year, right? Yeah, he's had a really nice year for them. I'm pretty impressed with this team overall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean Texas Tech, I think, is going to have a lot to say about what goes on throughout the year in the Big 12, and I really think TCU will as well, because these teams are going to fight and claw everybody. They're coached by two tough coaches who really know how to just win ball games. Doesn't matter who they got on their roster, but they just win ball games. And I think eventually Texas Tech will start to figure it out defensively, because it's a McCaslin team. I'm sure he's talking in every press conference. I haven't listened to any of his press conferences. I honestly haven't seen a single McCaslin quote all year, but I think that he's got to be talking about how bad the defense has looked for them.
Yeah,
the defensive guy, and he's gonna have that figured out. Not like totally figured out. They're not going to be number 3 defense in the conference, but they're going to figure it out defensively and start moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. That was a great hire for them, I think.
Yeah, all right,
just
Davis,
coming off the year that they had. Yeah,
thank you so much for joining us, and we'll definitely have you on again at some point.
Yeah, thank you guys.
For sure.
All right, and now Luke Cheney's going to join us, and Miami, NC State. This is the type of game that I saw Kevin Sweeney just tweeted it out. This is the type of game that Miami had been winning comfortably the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily that it's a bad loss, but it's a loss that you can't take in an ACC that's this week.
Yeah. Just a very ugly game overall. Not a very aesthetically pleasing game of basketball to watch in the slightest. Like I texted Sam like midway through the game. I was like, dude, this is a hard watch. Just because it was, man. The offensive execution from both teams was very poor. I did like a lot of what NC State did defensively, just with the amount of ball pressure they bring, the way they play at the level on ball screens, just really aggressive stuff that messed up a lot of what Miami was trying to do, and made Miami very uncomfortable and forced Miami into a lot of turnovers, as they've tended to do for this entire year. I think it's one of the most notable differences from this Miami team compared to, some of the Miami teams of years past, especially last year, is that, those Miami teams that made a deep run in the tournament, the ones led by Charlie Moore and Isaiah Wong and such, like they took really, really good control of the ball. I think both the 21 and the 22 Miami teams ended the year ranked, the 22 and the 23 team, excuse me, both ended the year ranked in the top 3 as far as least turnovers per game in the ACC. Last time I checked, Miami was ranked 14th in the ACC in turnovers per game. They just get very rushed offensively, a lot of careless mistakes, no real offensive identity at times, it seems, when the 3 ball isn't working. And, that's kind of what showed today. Just when the 3 ball, when they're not making shots from the perimeter at an unreal rate, this offense gets very stagnant just because of the lack of consistent self-creation throughout the lineup. And they only made, I think it was 1 field goal over the last like 4.5 minutes of game time. So not a great loss. Not a bad loss. NC State's not a bad team, especially on the road. And, we of course know how hard it is to win on the road. But yeah, for a Miami team that I mean, it's what day is it? It's January 30th. Like
It's January 30th. It's gonna be February the next time anyone takes the court.
Yeah, crunch time is approaching, man. Like especially for like how lackluster Miami's looked throughout this year. Like they need to start racking up these quad 1 and quad 2 wins. And I mean, ultimately today was a missed opportunity.
Jonathan, trivia time.
Yeah.
On-off offense. Who is the number one difference maker in that stat for Miami?
Tyshawn George.
Matthew Cleveland.
Ha! Let's go.
Matthew Cleveland did not play tonight. He is, again, he's the attempt at glue for this Miami team. Now, they don't really have glue. And that's kind of the issue with how inconsistent Cleveland's been. But, like, that's what they've needed him to be. And when he is that, they look really good. When he isn't able to do that, when he's not out there, they can really falter on the offensive end. They are 5.8 points better per 100 possessions with him on the court offensively than without him. And even though you think of Nigel Pack as a great offensive player, they're a lot worse with him on the floor because I don't really know why, honestly. But I just today they can't, when you can't hit shots. And when seriously nobody's hitting shots on this team and you can't pressure the ball and you can't get the ball to create extra possessions. Look, they had 20 offensive rebounds. They had 19 second chance points, but they had 6 points off of turnovers and 6 points from their bench. NC State didn't really have all that much in that sense either, but they were able to force 12 turnovers. They were able to just kind of protect the ball and hit their shots.
Yeah, obviously Miami over the last couple of years has played a very high variance style of basketball. And like it's worked. I mean, they've been doing Elite Eight and Final Four, so nobody's questioning the methods. But for some reason this year, and it wasn't the case tonight, they're not as good of an offensive rebounding team, and they turn the ball over way more than they did a year ago. And I think those two things are probably what you look at as to why this Miami team isn't as good. Because when you play a very high variance style of basketball, like it's important to give yourself second chances. It's important to not give teams runouts and looks in transition. And this Miami team just hasn't been the greatest at doing that this year.
And another thing, their last two tournament runs, they've had two elite guards, Pack and Wong. Wong and McGusty and Charlie Moore. That's 3 elite guards. This year, there's one, and he's not even playing like an elite guard all that often. I've thought that Pack has had a bunch of off games and a bunch of great games. He's been too inconsistent because they don't have another elite guard to take the pressure off of him. And it's just with Cleveland being a downgrade from Miller in that sense as well. And Omir's great, but they end up putting a lot more of a load on him than they need to, or than they would have needed to in the past. On the offensive end, in addition to how much work he has to do for them defensively, because he's the heart and soul of the defense, and they have to use him even more offensively now. It's just not a formula for success given the fact they don't have as deep of a guard room.
Yeah, I think speaking on some of Miami's issue at guard, some of Miami's issues at guard. Excuse me. I'm a big Nigel Pack guy. I mean, we all know what he can bring when he's at his best. I just think that he's best suited as a secondary guard within your offense, someone who can play off the ball, someone who can come off your pin downs, come off your flares, and just shoot the crap out of the ball on the move. But I mean, because you've inserted Bensley Joseph into the lineup for an Isaiah Wong, I mean, that has caused Pack's on-ball usage to, at least just with the eyeball test, to skyrocket. And I mean, just because Pack is I think he's listed at 6 feet tall. He's not 6 feet tall. Pack is a 5'10" ish guard who really can't effectively create his own shot, your offense is going to bog down at times. And also with Awuga Poplar, I mean, we all know what Awuga can bring. We all, see his potential as an NBA guard. Just what he can bring as an off the catch guy, off the dribble guy. But you just see those inconsistencies sometimes from him when he's thrusted into this high volume role. It's been a mess at times this year. Defensively, some of the guys that you turned to a lot last year aren't as engaged this year. I think Bensley Joseph has taken a step back defensively, which is tough for them because he was just an absolute menace last year at the point of attack, and he hasn't been that to the same level this year. Luka Poplar was pretty awesome last year defensively. I mean, he drew the Jordan Hawkins assignment in the Final Four. Spent the second half of last season guarding the opposing team's best guards and smaller wings. But I mean, this year, and some of that is probably due to the increase in offensive usage. But I mean, he is less engaged on a consistent. He's less engaged consistently. Defensively, tends to fall asleep off the ball. So I mean, it's there's this thing about this Miami team is that like you can see the talent, you can see what they can be when they're at their best, but it's just they just haven't gelled offensively and defensively up to this point this year.
Yeah, and like eventually with this, like this is a freshman class that has a ton of talent.
Oh, I'm hyped.
There are so many guys and sophomores too. Like Watson and Casey have a lot of talent as well. Like George, what he brings, and Nwoko, we know these guys can be great. They're just not there yet. Like they're not there yet. And when they get there in a couple of years, they're going to be awesome. But maybe they could have gone and gotten another veteran in the portal.
Yeah, I mean, there has been a lot of criticism amongst Miami's fan base this year for their lack of aggression in the portal this offseason, as far as just shoring up their bench and kind of getting a big who can consistently play 10 to 15 minutes a night to take away pressure from O'Meara, who also tends to be in foul trouble. Miami was involved with some guys. I mean, they had Van Allen Lubin on campus. They had Cormac Ryan on campus. Who else did they host? They hosted
Spencer, I think, as well, right?
Yep, Cam Spencer was one. They were in the running for Cam Spencer. They shot their shot with L. Ellis, a couple other guys. So it's like they were involved. They were involved with some guys. But like looking at the roster as a whole, coming into the year, they were way thinner or way more thin than expected. And some of those freshmen to sophomores didn't necessarily make the necessary leaps, such as an AJ Casey, such as a Christian Watson. Both those guys still have potential, but I think there was kind of this expectation that they could grow into those consistent, 10 to 15 minute night off the bench roles, and they really haven't. So they kind of have to rely on, a Keyshawn George, who has, obviously evolved, but also Michael Nwoko, now Paul Jabet as well, who's another freshman who actually played really, really well tonight. But yeah, I mean, I do have my criticisms with just the overall lack of depth of this Miami team, because it has been a problem for the past, even throughout Miami's, deep tournament runs. Like they haven't had much depth, and I think that's really caught up to them this year.
Yeah, and then on the NC State front, I really don't know what to think of NC State. Like, I know that they're not good enough to be a tournament team. Like, they're just not. But they come out and they can get they have wins now over Wake Forest and Miami. They can play some fast basketball. They can play some slow basketball. They can kind of play you however you want to play. And that's a interesting trait for them, I think. Like, I don't think they're very good though. Jonathan.
Their signature win will come on March 4th.
Who they play on March 4th?
Duke never wins there. Like
That yeah.
I've been a Duke fan my entire life. Like Duke loses every time they go to NC State.
Yeah, they got killed last year.
2015, Duke was 18-0. Went to NC State, lost by like 15.
Was that the Dennis Smith year?
No, that was a couple years.
Dennis Smith had
after
like
that.
35 in that game.
Yeah,
right?
they actually beat us in Cameron, Dennis Smith's year. But that was like that was like Cat Barber and like Ralston Turner, like that group.
Dennis
BJ
Smith had
Anya.
32. I remember that game. That was Tatum team.
But yeah,
right.
They already played North Carolina at home, right? Yeah, they did.
All right, Luke, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have a lot of other college basketball to discuss.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate the invite.
Yep. All right. Jonathan.
Sam.
What is going on in Columbia, South Carolina? Is it just another night in Paris?
I think it's just, Ion College. It's Ion College basketball season, honestly.
Shouts to Devin Downey.
You get the Campbell fighting camels with John Fanta last week. Now you get South Carolina just surging mid to late in the season. I'm like hesitant to like say what I think of this team, but like they can win a game in a variety of ways, which is impressive.
I thought today was the moment that they announced that this is a legit team in terms of just being able to physically handle. And when I say handle, I mean they were the aggressors physically in this game. And they succeeded at being the aggressors against a Tennessee team that is not aphysical. It's not an aphysical Tennessee team. No. Tennessee's very athletic. And South Carolina just goes out there and puts, for lack of a better term, puts their ass into Tennessee's ass and says, all right, beat us at this game. And they couldn't. Tennessee couldn't, because South Carolina just was able to feed BJ Mack and get him in the paint. We were able to get shots for Talon Cooper. Michi Johnson was really great with as a distributor today. I thought that South Carolina hit the shots that they needed to, and they got the ball wherever they wanted to get it.
Yeah, a couple things on this one. First of all, I didn't really think Tennessee adjusted very well, and that goes on Rick Barnes. Like Tennessee switches everything. They always have. It is like at least the last couple years that I've been watching pretty much every game they've played. Tennessee switches everything. You can't put a guard on BJ Mack. Like he's too strong. You just can't do it. I thought switching 1 through 4 was probably fine, but once you were switching on BJ Mack, and then AD was in foul trouble, so at the end of the game, you had guards and wings just kind of switching onto him regardless. I tweeted this. I have never seen a player give another team as much trouble as BJ Mack did tonight and shoot that badly. Like he finished 4 of 14 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3. Yeah, 1 of 8 from 3. Like I've never seen, and I felt like he was giving Tennessee all sorts of problems. He got to the line a bunch, but if you look at the box score, you would not say that BJ Mack dominated this game, and it certainly felt that way from.
He was the I know I said South Carolina were the aggressors. He was the aggressor. Yeah. He was the one doing the brute work for this team, and also South Carolina won the battle on the glass. They were 40-37 on the glass. They got 9 offensive rebounds. And Tennessee won the points in the paint battle, which surprises me by a good amount in this game. But it just felt like South Carolina got where they needed to go. And they hit their free throws in the second half as well. That's huge. That's so important to hit your free throws. Just 11 of 12 in the second half. That's how you win ball games.
There were a couple of big shots that I think both of them, maybe one was by Miles Studi, and one was by Talon Cooper at the end of the game. But there was a couple times when South Carolina got into gaps and got an easy kick to an open three in the corner. And like I just like saw it and I'm like, that would never have happened last year. Like this team is worse defensively than they were last year. They're still
No doubt.
they're still a really phenomenal defensive team, but they are worse than last year. And
No doubt.
while
I mean, last year's defense was number 1 in the country. They were
Yeah.
87.5 defensive rating. This year, 90.9.
They are worse. It's not by a significant amount, and we knew they would be worse. Their changes that they made are for the better. We all agree on that. But the style that game was played tonight was for the worst. If last year's Tennessee team played a game like that, they never would have lost it. Like that's how Tennessee played last year. It's how that game was played tonight. But this team thrives playing a different style of basketball than what we're accustomed to with Tennessee.
Everybody not named Dalton Connect today for Tennessee. 10 for 34.
Also, I thought their body language was terrible. Like so many guys throwing their arms up in the air, complaining about calls, like unwillingness to play through it, and like the crowd kind of fed off it. Like it was a physical game. There should have been a decent amount called, and the refs established that right away.
Yeah, but I mean, Connect is unreal. He's
a superhuman. He's on a different planet.
He's the best player in the SEC. He's the second best player in the country.
I can get behind that, yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone besides Zach Edey is better than him right now.
Yeah, I would say like maybe Deron Holmes, but like that would be it. Like, and
Connect's doing this in the SEC.
It's 6 straight games now with 25 plus.
That is the most since Devin Downey, I think they said on the broadcast.
Shouts.
Yeah, but I mean, South Carolina is now 18-3. They are 6-2 in the SEC. They are 20th in Ken Palm's luck rating. Congratulations on winning the Providence Invitational. But Lamont Paris, I know we said last week there's no clear favorite for Coach of the Year. If they go in to Stegman and beat Georgia on Saturday, which, I mean, it feels like it could be a trap game.
Yeah.
If they avoid that trap, I will say on Saturday night's podcast that Lamont Paris is the clear front runner for National Coach of the Year.
And I will join you on that. Absolutely. Like, you know how we were talking last week after they beat Kentucky, how they were probably going to like end up playing themselves into like a 7 seed, 8 seed around there. Like it could end up being like 4 or 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Just out of absolutely nowhere.
They have 3 losses.
Yeah. I mean, where did I have this team?
I know their non-con schedule like was terrible, but like, yeah, what were they? Hold on. Yeah, they were 331st in non-con strength of schedule.
Did I even have them in my top 100?
No, no. They were the only SEC team for me that didn't make it.
Yeah, I'm quite sure that I picked them last.
I even went to a point in the offseason where I said a line in an article I wrote that was not all 6 SEC coaches from that hiring cycle are going to hit. It looks like Lamont Paris might be one that doesn't.
Yeah, I had South Carolina dead last in the SEC preseason. Right now, in the SEC standings, they are a half game behind Alabama for number 1.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lamont Paris for the most impressive season relative to expectations, maybe of anybody in the country right now. It's him, probably Sundance Wicks as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is it time to talk about North Carolina?
Someone finally shot well from 3 against them.
Yeah, I mean,
we've been waiting for.
By the way, shout out Nate George. Like this dude can play.
Hit every clutch bucket for them tonight.
8 for 10 from the foul line as a freshman in that type of game. That's huge.
Mm-hmm. your supposed superstar coming into the year for UNC took 8 shots tonight.
Yeah, I've never been a Baycott guy. I don't see it. And also, the key in this game, Elliot Cadeau plays 21 minutes, fouls out, is a plus 12. He scored 5.
They're so much better when he's on the floor. It's not even like funny.
He scored 5 points. That's all he needed.
He said he played 21 minutes and he had 5 assists.
21 minutes, 5 assists. Yep.
That's nuts. Only 1 turnover. By the way, I think I'm glad that they're starting to I'm not glad because I do not like them, but for their sake and their fans' sake, probably a good thing that Hubert Davis realized Jalen Withers is just not that good.
Also, did you know Elliot Cadeau is the number 1 player on this team in on-off defense?
Yeah, I could have guessed that. I think RJ probably plays too much to have that be a notable stat. And
RJ is actually number 1 on the team by a good margin and just on-off, even with playing as much as he does. But the whole thing today is that RJ Davis is a superstar. That is known. Mm-hmm. Armando Baycott is not a superstar. Harrison Ingram is not a superstar. Those guys are just not as impactful as I think people sometimes make them out to be. Elliot Cadeau is the second most impactful player on this team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I really think that UNC, as good as RJ Davis was, I really think UNC should have given it to Caleb Love to take that last shot. Could have used him there.
You know who else they could have used?
Who?
Caleb Grill.
Could have used Caleb Grill. Everyone could use a Caleb Grill. Except when you don't need a Caleb Grill.
Everyone could use a Caleb Grill. I think that was...
Dude, we just said it 4 times.
Yeah. I think we're up to 30. Regardless of that. North Carolina, this loss doesn't necessarily concern me about North Carolina because I knew it was coming eventually. And I never thought they were as good as some people said they were. Oh, congrats, you beat Syracuse by 36. Syracuse went and got punked by Boston College today. What do you... the ACC stinks. North Carolina shouldn't get, brownie points for beating Clemson on the road, shooting 1 for 18, for beating Pitt on the road, shooting 5 for 29. Cool. Solid, but this was gonna happen. This team is not invincible. They were very vulnerable, and it sets up a very, very interesting dynamic for Saturday.
How does this team have 4 quad 1 wins? What am I missing here? Obviously, Tennessee.
Wake was home.
Oh, Oklahoma was at a neutral. That should not count as quad 1. At Clemson, and then where's their 4th? Oh, at Pitt, I guess. Yeah, okay. I just was looking at their schedule very briefly, and I'm like, how is this team of 4 quad 1s? It does not look like they should, but I forget they've won a ton of road games.
I just think this sets up an interesting dynamic for Saturday.
Yeah, Duke can get into it, force a tie for first place if they can get it done in Chapel Hill for the 3rd straight season.
Juju Murray was not the MAC transfer that I thought would be all SEC caliber, but he's been the best player on an Ole Miss team that's now 18-3.
Mm-hmm.
He had 21 points and 11 assists tonight. He's shooting 44% from beyond the arc. He is averaging a good deal of assists as well. Today was probably the best game of his college career.
Yeah, he was great tonight. I didn't really get eyes on that one, but I mean, Ole Miss is 18-3 now. Their resume's not super great.
Hey, they don't have any home losses though. All their losses have come on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Now they got killed in 2 of them,
Mm-hmm.
but protecting their home floor is very important.
Yeah, I don't really buy this team, but this was a win that they needed to have. So credit to them for going out and getting it in a rivalry game. Like we said, Juju was great. Matthew Morrell has been a good scorer at Ole Miss for a couple of years now. He's just finally on a team that actually is playing for something. This team's going to have to continue. If this team continues to just win home games, I think they should be fine.
With you. I gotta turn off that fan. I'm cold.
What else? We got Colorado State, San Diego State. Is that where you were going next?
I think I was gonna go to Indiana.
Oh God, do we have to?
We just have to mention that Iowa got cooked by a dude who wasn't even on the KenPom game page entering today.
Anthony Leal.
Yes. All right. Trivia time.
Okay.
Name the last 5 Indiana Mr. Basketballs.
Well, Anthony Leal's one of them because I saw Ant Wright's tweet.
Yep.
Anthony Leal's not a freshman, right?
He is a senior.
Okay. Xavier Booker.
No.
Who would have won it last year? That's not Xavier Booker. Gabe Cupps didn't win it, did he?
No. Gabe Cupps is from Ohio.
Oh shoot, that's right.
This is the only one that's not an Indiana or Purdue player this year's.
This year's is the only one that's not an Indiana or Purdue player.
But he is playing in the state of Indiana.
Huh. Do I know who this is?
Yes, of course you do. He's a high major player.
I mean, there's only one other high major that's not Indiana or Purdue in that state, and it's Notre Dame. Is it Marcus Burton?
It is.
Okay.
Who was 2022 Indiana Mr. Basketball?
Is it Fletcher Lawyer?
No.
So you said every other guy's a Purdue or Indiana player, right?
Yes. Yes.
This
is not hard. This is really not hard.
It's not. Is it Malik Renew?
Oh my God.
Braden Smith?
2021, go.
Jeez, you're putting me on the spot here.
This one's a little more difficult.
But it is it's okay.
It is a Purdue player.
It's a Purdue player. Is it Trey Kaufman-Renn? No.
No.
Cam Heidi's not from Indiana. Lance is not from Indiana. He's also like 24 years old.
You want me to give you the answer?
Sure.
Caleb First.
Okay.
Then Anthony Leal was 2020 and TJD was 2019.
Okay. Interesting.
Those are the last 5 Indiana Mr. Basketballs. Congrats to Anthony Leal on
the award.
On a career high 13 points tonight in year 4 as a Mr. Basketball.
On the other side, who was last year's Iowa Mr. Basketball? I don't know the answer to this,
Omaha.
But if it's not Omaha, I would be shocked. Iowa Mr. Basketball.
It's got to be Omaha, right? Oh, it's Price.
God, it's Price Sanford.
Oh my God! Just looking at the last couple Omaha Mr. Basketballs: Price Sanford, Taman Lipsey, Tucker DeVry, Bowen Bourne, Jake Hilmer. Wait,
DJ Carton was a bucket.
Who the hell is Jake Hilmer?
Huh?
Joe Wieskamp. I don't. If you
Oh,
asked me,
my guy Peter Jock.
if you asked me how many Mr. Basketballs I could name from last year, I'm giving you like 2.
2?
Price Sanford and Marcus Burton.
I mean, do you know who won in Illinois?
Should I?
Yeah.
How bad is it?
You know who he is. Like this team won state in Illinois last year.
That means nothing to me.
It's a team that had 2 players go to the same school.
Oh, was it Owen Freeman?
It was Brock Harding won it.
All right.
I don't know. I feel like if you gave me the state, I could probably guess right a bunch.
Yeah, but you see what I mean? I can't do.
Like I bet like Jared McCain probably won it in California.
Could have been Caleb Foster.
Could have been Dusty Stromer too, but like I think McCain won
Andre
it.
Stojakovic. Well, Collier probably won in Georgia.
Yeah. Don't tell me, but do you know who the New York one is?
I mean, no. Kind of embarrassing though.
Was just wondering.
Joe Girard probably won it 4 years in a row.
Joe Girard won it like 3 times, I think.
Yeah, Joe Girard's like the greatest high school player in New York State like ever.
You know who the only player is to win 4 in a row? Win all 4 years of high school?
Was it LeBron?
I don't think this is like actually. I don't know if this is actually accurate, but I know this guy won 4 years in a row.
Was it LeBron?
It was not LeBron. It was actually like way more. It was actually like more recent than you would think.
Who was it?
And it was in the state of Florida.
Who was it?
It was Joel Berry.
Really?
Yeah. He won 4 times.
That's interesting. Anyway, we have to get back to college basketball. I don't really have a ton that I want to go over tonight, like outside of what we already did. Dayton got a big bounce back. St. Bonaventure came back in a big way against VCU. I didn't get any eyes on Oklahoma, Kansas State, but Kansas State stinks.
I kind of did, but
Kansas State is 158th in offense.
Jerome Tang, you will be in job interviews in a couple months.
I'm not quite putting Jerome Tang on like Marquise Noel, Keontae Johnson, like carry his legacy watch, but
carried his legacy. He's been a coach for 1.5 years.
But like
in one of those years, he was a couple points away from the Final Four.
Like I'm gonna have a lot more skepticism about Jerome Tang than I thought I would, is what I'm gonna say.
Let's just say this: if Jerome Tang doesn't start winning in like the next couple years, we could very well make that meme of like Jerome Tang looking at the picture in bed and like it's Marquise Noel on it.
I mean, to be honest with you, to be fair, that's every college basketball fan.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably the most electric player in the country the last 5 years. Since Zion, maybe the most electric.
Yeah, we might never get a tournament like that again. I mean, dude was 15 assists every game with his eyes closed.
It's like 5'2" as well.
Yeah. Inspiration for all the little guys out there.
I didn't have eyes on either of the Peacock games, and I don't think there's any takeaways from them either.
Good adjustments in the second half by Michigan.
How bad was it in the first half?
They were up 2 at the half.
Oh, okay.
I lost by 19.
I was just like, I know they lost by 19, and you said that, and I'm like, wait. How bad was it?
What, do you think they were down 35 at the half?
I mean, I feel like I would have heard about that if that were.
And also, like, if this team was down 35 at the half, would you be all that surprised?
No. What was that tweet that you sent me? It
I
was
called them the Fighting Martellis the other day.
no. It was, I feel bad for Jalen Llewellyn. He's out there giving it his all and clearly hobbled, but he can't get a sub because Doug didn't turn in his econ homework.
Carter.
Shout out Carter Elliott for that one. Jalen Llewellyn
The
plays
sleepers
36
guys just
minutes.
tweet bangers after banger.
The Travion Williams tweet is still one of the greats.
Yep.
And Jaden Akins hit 7 threes. Like, this is a guy that kind of has been things have been slow for him, I feel, this year.
Yeah, he has
But
not been good.
he's coming along. Big game today. They didn't need a big game from Tyson Walker, and they still kind of kill him. They still have 4 big men, and none of them are good.
Did you know Michigan State's shooting 36.8% from 3 on the year now?
After
40
starting like
It's 45th in the country.
What did they start? Like,
Dude, they didn't make a 3 for the
50?
They didn't make a 3 for the first like game and a half.
No, they made 1 against JMU, and they made 1 against Southern Indiana. Then they made 6. Like, they were just not hitting shit.
Yeah, they had 6 against Duke. And then they turned around and played Butler. And okay. They hit 7. So,
But
7.
their last 3 games, they're over 42% from 3 in all of them.
Watch out for those Spartans.
Yeah, I mean,
Here comes
top
Mr.
25
March.
it's the top 25 team in the country. We thought they were top 25 in the preseason. They have been KenPom top 25 all but like 3 days of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And aside from a disappointing loss at home to a team that proved to be pretty solid when they shot 1 for 20 from 3, they don't really have a blip on their resume. I mean, Nebraska, they have 4 road losses. None of them are bad. They have a home loss outside of the JMU game, just 1 home loss and 2 neutral losses.
Yeah. I mean, they're like look at their schedule coming up. Like they could rattle off a bunch in a row here.
I wouldn't be surprised, like if they could win their next 6 or 7.
If they walk in to Mackey on March 2nd without a loss since the Wisconsin game last Friday, how surprised would you be?
They're gonna lose one of those games.
I agree, but like, how surprised would you be?
Not particularly.
Oh, Michigan State at Indiana to close out the regular season. Let's go.
Michigan State 72, Indiana 56.
I will be sitting inside Enterprise that day. Not the car place, the stadium.
Well, you'll get there by driving a car.
Ideally.
What?
I mean, I don't plan on walking.
You're going to take the train?
No.
Is there a train?
I mean, could I get from here to St. Louis on a train? Yes.
Freight train?
Am I going to do that? No.
You can get on a freight train.
There's a train station here.
Yeah, it's got 1 departure a day at 3:27 a.m. or something.
I thought you just looked that up.
I did not. But
I was actually like thinking about like taking the train home like one summer, but didn't end up needing to.
One departure a day, and it's probably like 2 a.m.
I don't know. I've never looked at the Columbia, Missouri train schedule.
DePaul scored 39 points tonight.
Dude, how do you not capitalize off that momentum? And I'm not talking about like the fact that they have an interim coach.
We know what you're talking about. Akron has won 8 of 9 games.
Dude, I was low-key very close to turning this game on tonight, but like Eastern Michigan's so bad that I just did not.
They won 77-46 against Eastern Michigan tonight. Enrique Freeman scored 17, had 11 rebounds. The Zips are 16-5. They are 90th in KenPom. This is a dangerous MAC team that we'll talk more about going forward. but
This-
not right now. I don't really
this
have
is
all
an-
that.
This is a team that I feel like will be quite popular if they get to the tournament to be picked as an upset.
By the way, shout out to El Marco Jackson for a great game tonight. First
Shouts.
double digit performance of his Big 12 career. First performance scoring more than 2 points of his Big 12 career. They needed it, and it's a guy who'd only hit 7 threes all year coming in, and he hit his only 2 that he took today. They needed someone to step up with McCullough out, even against the least interesting team in the country, and he did. They won by 29.
Yeah, this is a Kansas team that like I wasn't unimpressed with how they played on Saturday, and if they're going to continue to get either Furphy or Elmarco Jackson to play well, like they're a much better team than what we thought 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. What else is there to go over from today? Let's take a look. Oh, Valley update.
There's only one game tonight. I kind of watched it. I'll give a quick update here. I haven't talked a lot about Illinois State or Murray State for that matter this year. Murray State was not great in the non-con, but has really started to pick it up in league play. But Illinois State tonight goes down there in Murray, Kentucky, and manages to come away with a win. I was pretty surprised. This Illinois State team, I have not given them nearly enough credit this year. I apologize for that. They last year were in like the 290s, 280s in Ken Palm. They were like right above Louisville at like 289, I want to say. They've made a jump up to like 217 this season. Good job by Ryan Pedon and his team. Had some returning talent, brought in some transfer talent, and it's paying off. They're 5-6 in the league. Murray State, just a very inconsistent team. They have been under Steve Prom. They have some good players, but they don't always put it together. And when Rob Perry goes 1 for 8 from the field and 1 for 4 from 3, they're not going to beat many teams in this league at home. That's it, Sam.
I will continue to say this after every St. Louis game. Just fire Travis Ford.
That's a nice transition. Valley to St. Louis.
Just fire Travis Ford already. 1-7.
Did you see what Metellus tweeted today about that?
What did he tweet?
He said, Travis Ford coaches tonight. Hide your kids.
Travis Ford now 1-7 in the A10. They lost by 15 to Loyola Chicago. 13th in offense, 14th in defense in the conference. I just don't have any words for how the season has gone for them. It's a complete disaster.
Yeah, both on and off the court.
Yeah, they've lost like multiple players to, I think multiple players have left the program or something.
No, the coach's son is allegedly making burner accounts.
But I also think either one or multiple players have left.
No, they have. I think Parker's been hurt a ton. It's just, it has not been a fun season for them.
They were 7-1 in the A10 last year.
Also,
they finished 12-6.
Like
they were 8-2 in the A10 2 years ago, and they finished 12-6.
Well, I don't think they're finishing 12-6 this year, considering tonight was their 7th conference loss.
They were 5-0 in 2019, and they finished 10-8. They won the A10 tournament that year.
Yeah, that team did make the tournament.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is that Travis Ford has made one tournament in now. This is year 8 at St. Louis.
They have like the most money in the league. Like this should not be happening.
Highest paid coach in the conference. He's made one tournament.
This should not be happening. Like, yeah, you're gonna have down years. It happens. But
they just need to get rid of him.
The most money in the league, finishing 15th.
Just get rid of him.
Oh my God!
Fire Travis. Yeah, Gonzaga's kicking ass right
dude.
now.
I just looked up and it was like a 15-point game at the half, and now it's a 35-point game.
Lindenwood over SEMO. That's a rivalry, right?
I mean, they're not like super far from each other, but like a couple hours.
Really?
Lindenwood's like new to D1, like last year.
I know. St.
I
Charles
have-
and
I have been-
St. Charles and Cape Girardeau were closer.
St. Charles is like little northwest of St. Louis. So Cape Girardeau is like pretty close to like the boot of the state.
Yeah, I'm just always confused by that. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I have
Like
been
how the Northeast doesn't make sense to you.
I have been across from Lindenwood University more times than you would think. It's really weird. It's just like that exit on the highway is like where I stop when I'm like driving through St. Louis or
Shout out Great Osobor for another huge game tonight. 31 points and 7 rebounds as Utah State improved to 19-2.
Great to great.
There are only 6 teams left in college basketball with 2 losses. Sorry, 7 teams left in college basketball with 2 losses. Houston, Purdue, UConn, Utah State, Grand Canyon, Princeton, and McNeese.
Great.
Jonathan,
Great.
You want to close us out?
Yeah. Let's do it. If you're here to sorry, this needs a little more energy. That was a poor start. I'm going to redo that.
All
If
right.
you are here to hear about Tyler Self's job and where he's working currently, you came to the right place. If you came here to hear about the SEMO Lindenwood rivalry, you came to the right place. And if you're here to hear about what's going on with Caleb Grill, who I will be in the same building tomorrow as, you came to the right place. This is Brackets, Bubbles, and Steelers, Season 4, Episode 39. We'll see you tomorrow night, possibly.